All right, coming at you on this Friday evening with weather for Weather Geeks. We're in the middle of a very unsettled period, not only here locally, but in a lot of the lower Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi Valley as well. It's a real mess in some parts of the eastern U.S. While it's not as soggy locally, and it won't be as soggy locally as some of our neighbors off to the south and west, it's still going to be an unsettled period taking us through the upcoming weekend. At least we didn't have snow today. We were dealing with snow in a big way on this date 38 years ago. Yes, boy, time flies. 1987, April the 4th, 11.8 inches of snow officially at the Youngstown Warren Airport. And this was an unusual setup, of course, to have this much snow in early April. There were amounts up to 2 feet in parts of southern Ohio, Kentucky, into the mountains of West Virginia as well. And again, locally, we had about a foot worth of snow on this date back in 1987. This was a pattern that actually produced snow on a few different occasions in the eastern U.S. This was our big one here, but on the first day of April back in 1987, some parts of the eastern U.S. also had quite a bit of snow. When you look at the record books and the April records for one-day snow totals, of course, April 4th, 87 is at the top of the list, and it almost doubles what's in second place. That was April the 3rd, 2005, when we had 6.1. Couple of recent years on here, including 2007, and again later in 2005 on April the 24th, we had about 5 inches worth of snow, and back in 2016 on April the 9th, 3.8 inches of snow. But in a 24-hour period in early April to pick up a foot of snow, that is easily the April record for our area. It's not snow, but some rain heading our way. Already seeing some sprinkles and some light raindrops out there a little before 6 p.m., and showers are becoming more numerous back towards Interstate 70. We're going to get wet this evening, and we're really going to get wet later on tonight. We have a stationary boundary, of course, just off to our south. This is the cold front that just hit the brakes and stalled. South of the front, full-blown summer. I mean, well up into the 80s, even approaching 90 in places like Raleigh and Charlotte and Knoxville and Nashville. But then north of the front, we're in the 50s pretty much in all of Ohio and western Pennsylvania. This front is going to wiggle and wobble around, and that'll have big implications on our weekend forecast. And the severe weather risk on the warm side of this boundary, and right around the vicinity of the boundary, it continues with more tornado watches in northeastern Texas, Arkansas, and parts of the Tennessee and Mississippi valleys as well. Severe thunderstorm watch in the yellow there in Kentucky. Now, the severe weather risk for the rest of today and into tonight, especially high in that level 4 moderate risk area. It's the same places that have tornado watches out. So Little Rock, Arkansas, northeastern Texas around Tyler, heading up into the boot heel of Missouri, and into all the way into southern parts of Indiana and Illinois. Boy, those people cannot catch a break. And the severe weather risk on Saturday is still elevated in a good chunk of Tennessee, eastern Texas, eastern parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and a slight risk gets up into southern Ohio. We'll talk more about our local severe weather risks coming up. And day 3, Sunday, still a severe weather risk, of course, farther east. But we still are going to be under the gun for some ugly weather in parts of the eastern U.S. This time on Sunday, it's probably Birmingham and Atlanta, and heading up towards Charlotte and Raleigh and up towards D.C. as well. All right, let's break down what we expect to happen overnight. Some showers this evening, garden variety stuff, nothing to write home about. But then some, kind of inconsiderate showers and storms will roll through in the wee hours of Saturday morning. And I say inconsiderate because these could be pretty loud. There could be some thunder. And I even think there could be some small hail. There's going to be a lot of wind energy aloft. It's not quite as good of a setup for hail as we had with those storms the other night, a couple of nights ago. But still, some small hailstones will be a possibility with the tropical downpours. And a lot of this will happen before sunrise Saturday morning. By the time we hit 7, 8 o'clock, the heaviest of the rain should be long gone at that point, and we'll get into a break for a large part of the daylight hours. Well, speaking of the daylight hours, after a break midday, early afternoon, we're going to keep an eye on the sequence of events late in the afternoon on Saturday. Let me back up our animation here. This is a model depiction of atmospheric instability, or CAPE, C-A-P-E, convectively available potential energy, kind of a measure of thunderstorm fuel. And as our front wiggles back to the north, we're going to try to get into the warm sector in a lot of eastern Ohio and western PA. I'm most confident of this down in this area, closer to Athens, Parkersburg, Morgantown, even as far north as Wheeling and Pittsburgh, Interstate 70. Once you're north of I-70, I think that the chance of getting into this buoyant air mass will lower quite a bit. But especially in our southern viewing area, we may have to look out for a few gusty, heavy thunderstorms with a lower-end severe weather risk tomorrow. Here's the Storm Prediction Center Day 2 severe weather outlook zoomed in on our local area. I kind of think the slight risk should be over here like this. It should be expanded farther east. Wouldn't be surprised if overnight tonight they did that. I was a little surprised they didn't do it early this afternoon, but I could see where the risk is high enough to warrant a slight risk down in here. Again, north of I-70, marginal's probably okay. But especially once you're down towards East Liverpool, and then especially south of there, closer to Wheeling. If you get a little sunshine, I think dew points are going to come up. The temperature is going to skyrocket into the upper 60s, lower 70s, and we've got a pretty healthy front coming our way with still a lot of wind shear aloft. So again, we get wet first thing in the morning, mostly before daybreak. A lot of nothingness then for the midday hours, and then here comes our front. It will stop things late in the afternoon. This particular model here is not gung-ho on a lot of convection, on a lot of thunderstorms, partly because it has the front rolling through early enough, 4:30, 5 o'clock, that the atmosphere doesn't have a whole lot of time to build that instability. If this front comes through maybe a little bit later, closer to 6:30, 7 o'clock instead of 4 or 5 o'clock, then maybe our chances would increase for some thunderstorm activity. It's going to rain for a lot of the night. Now, I don't think the rain will be heavy all night, but especially Saturday evening, it's going to rain pretty steadily and there could be some downpours. But boy, it's going to cool off quickly Saturday evening. Temperatures will plummet, setting the stage for a cold, miserable Sunday. A touch of rain, drizzle here and there, a lot of times just cloudy and uneventful with temperatures struggling to get out of the 30s. Kind of interesting what happens then Sunday night into Monday morning. Check out this model depiction here. That's snow. There's going to be a wave of low pressure that forms along that cold front and rides north. The air might just be cold enough to produce a little light snow across the area Sunday night. Wouldn't expect a lot out of this. Maybe, though, it covers some surfaces. This is just one model depiction, and we have some, varying solutions on our models, but it's possible that we see a little bit of snow Sunday night. We get a break Monday with some sunshine and cold temperatures, but then snow showers likely return Monday night. As far as how much rain to expect from here on out, this general idea I think is right, with the heaviest amounts back here: Cincinnati, Louisville, Dayton, Columbus. But this taken literally has us getting up to 2 inches. I think a good average in our TV viewing area will be an inch or two, but especially with those downpours late tonight, early in the day on Saturday, very early in the day. A downpour can produce half an inch really quickly. So I think a good region-wide average will be an inch or two from now through the end of the weekend. But I could see where if you get under a tropical downpour once or twice, some locations might get a few inches of rain before the weekend is through, with a lot of it coming or trying to come at one time with any tropical downpours later on tonight. Again, with that low-pressure system riding up along the old front, it's possible we'll see some coverings of snow Sunday night. Here's our computer model spread, the happy hour GFS coming in. We're going to kind of ignore that at this point. We don't think that's a very likely solution. Most of our models show, trace amounts, maybe up to a half an inch. My general thinking right now is Sunday night, some surfaces might get covered by a little bit of snow. Snow showers could cover a few more surfaces then Monday night into Tuesday morning. Quick look at the longer range before we go this evening. No real warm patterns coming our way anytime real soon, but I think a less active pattern will start to transpire as we go into the middle and latter portions of April. Here's the precipitation outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center. 6 to 10 day outlook, 8 to 14 day right here. Here's weeks 3 and 4. The temperatures are up top, and while this is not going to be a remarkably chilly pattern once we get past the first part of next week, I think the heat, or the warmth compared to average, generally speaking, is going to try to be centered for a lot of April in the middle of the country and for a time out west. I don't think April is going to finish 5 degrees warmer than the average here locally, like March did. But will it finish cooler than average? That remains to be seen. I'd be skeptical of that, but I don't think we're going to have the kind of temperature anomaly for the month like we had back in March. So lots and lots of weather to keep track of in the coming days, including over the weekend. We'll have you covered on 21 News, the Storm Tracker 21 app, all of our social media as well. Have a great Friday night and a great weekend as well. I'll see you back here on Monday.